Hey, this is Andrew Brown from ExamPro, and let's take a look here at virtual machines, which I consider the backbone of most cloud service providers. And Azure keeps it really simple by calling it virtual machine. So we can go up here and type in virtual machine and make our way over here. But right now I don't have any options because I'm using a tenant that doesn't have a subscription applied to it. So what I'm going to do is go switch back to my original tenant, and this one has a subscription applied to it. And so what I'll do is just click back up here, and now we'll just type in virtual machines. And I can now see I have options of creating virtual machines. So let's go ahead and go create a Linux one first, and then we'll go ahead and create a Windows one, and then we'll see how we can connect to it, all right? So first we'll go to the top here and hit add. We'll click on virtual machine. And we're going to be presented with a lot of options, so we'll have to choose a subscription, and so there is mine. I want to probably create a new resource group here. I'm going to call this one Azure. And we'll name this Azure again. And I'm going to launch this in US East. I'll just set it to one availability zone for the time being. Then here we have what we can choose as an image. I can click on See All Images and choose from a variety of them. So if I didn't want to use Ubuntu, I could launch something else like Debian or something like that. But really, I just want to stick with Ubuntu because I'm fine with that version with 18. Then here's what really matters is the size, because that's going to affect our cost. So if we click on See All Sizes, we have this nifty table where we can sort the cost. It's just loading in the cost here. It's dynamic. This is going to be based on what your base subscription is. So if you're in Canada, you're going to see Canadian prices. If you're in the US, you're going to see US prices, et cetera, et cetera. And I care a lot about cost here, so I'm just going to sort this by cost. And here we have the B1LS, which is very cost effective. We have a RAM of 0.5 gigabytes and some other options there. So we'll go ahead and select that there. And we have a couple options. We can use SSH public key, or we can utilize a password. And so I think what we'll do is use an SSH public key because that's pretty much the standard there. We're going to name the username Azure if it lets us. Probably won't. Probably want some additional options there. Nope, it's okay. Oh, great. And we'll go ahead and generate a new key pair. And I'm just going to name that one Azure. And we have some options here for inbound rules. So you could set to none. This is just setting up the NSG for you. But we're probably going to want to have that port open for SSH because that's how we're going to make our way back in here. If we're running like an Apache server, we'd want to have port 80 open. So we can go ahead and do that. We'll take a look at now disks. So here we have options between premium, standard, and standard HHD. I just want this to be cost effective, so I'm just going to go with standard HDD. But generally, you want to have at least standard or premium SSD when you're running real web development workloads. Then there's encryption here, and so it's always turned on by default, which is great. They also have this option of double encryption with the platform managing customer managed key. We're just going to leave that as default. Enable UltraDisk compatibility. That's not something we need to do here because we are not using UltraDisk. And here you can see that you can attach multiple disks here. So I can go and do that, but that's not something I need to do today. And some other advanced options, which we do not care about. We'll go over to networking, and so it's going to end up creating us a new VNet for us, and we'll create a new subnet for us and assign it an IP address. It will also set up a NICS network security group. So the network security group is not going to be applied at the subnet level. It's going to be applied at the NIC, which is attached to the EC2 there. And so we'll just leave it to basic. We're going to allow inbound ports for port 80 and 22. That was carried over from earlier. We can put this behind a load balancer, but I don't think we're going to do that right now. We'll go over to management. We have some additional options here for monitoring. This is all okay here. We can set it to auto shutdown. Actually, I'll leave that alone. You can also enable backups here. We'll go advanced. And now we have this option here for custom data. I covered a section on Cloud Init, and they don't call this user data, but most other providers will call this user data. So we could provide a bash script or additional information here if we wanted to. Then down below, there's some host group options. We're not going to worry about that. And proximity placement group. This is really important if you need to have instances nearby. I think this is pretty common with what's it called? High capacity workloads, HFC. I can't remember the initialism right now, but we covered in the core content. Then we can tag our resource here. We'll just leave that alone. I don't care about tagging too much, but generally it's good to tag in practice. And then we will get to review and create our server here. We'll go ahead and hit create. And then we'll have to download our private key so we can utilize it later. And so that's downloaded there. And now we're just waiting for it to deploy this, and I'll see you back here in a moment. So we had to wait a little bit there, and finally our deployment is complete. And we can go ahead and just review all the things that it created. So notice that it created the virtual machine, it created a network interface, a NIC for us, the NSG, the network security group, the virtual network, and also a public IP address. When I do cleanup, a lot of things I always miss are these IP addresses, and I know that Azure gave me a warning that said, hey, you're about to spend $700 yearly on IP addresses because you weren't releasing them. So when we do the cleanup step, I'll definitely emphasize about deleting those IP addresses and how to go about that. But let's go take a look at the actual resource now. So here we are, and you can see we have a lot of options on the left-hand side, such as the disk. So we can see the disk options there, and there's other additional security options. Let's go take a look at how we can go ahead and connect to the server. And so there's different options here. So we have RDP, SSH, and Bastion. Since we are using a Linux machine, we're not going to be using RDP. That's really for Windows. But the trick here is that I would need to have a client on my computer to connect, like I think it's called PuTTY. If you're on a Linux-based machine, it's a lot easier. And certainly I have the Linux subsystem installed, so I could probably connect that way. But I figured let's just go ahead and connect via Bastion because I think this is a pretty darn cool feature. So let's go ahead and create ourselves a Bastion. And this will take a little bit of time here. But we'll go ahead here and just set up a subnet. So to associate a virtual network to a Bastion, it must contain a subnet with the Azure Bastion subnet. So they actually have a special subnet for it. So what we'll do is we'll just go back to our server here, which we called Azure. And I think we can find a subnet through here. So on the left-hand side, if we go to networking, we probably could find it that way. So I'm just looking for that security group in there. It should be, maybe it's not there. If it's not there, well, you know, we could just make our way over to subnets. It's not a big deal. Because it's called Azure. It's pretty darn easy to find to begin with. And so under subnets here, what we need to do is add a special one here. And I just got to remember how this works. So you need to create a subnet called Azure Bastion subnet with a prefix of at least 27. So we'll go ahead and add a new subnet, and we'll call it that. We'll take out the space there. And the range is 10, 0, 1, 0, etc. So we'll just do it on 2. 0.2.0/27. 10.0.0.2 is not contained. Yeah, it overlaps, so we'll do 2. It's not contained in the virtual network address space. Oh, right, so we have to add the address space first. Oops, we'll just hit cancel here. That's okay, we'll discard that. We'll make our way over to address space, and we'll go ahead and add 10.0.2.0/24. That'll give us a pretty darn large range there. And so now what we'll do is go back to our subnet, and we'll go ahead and create that there. And it said it only needed 27, so we'll just give it only 27. We don't need to go bigger than we need. And that should be okay. We'll go ahead and hit save. And it shouldn't take too long. So now that we have that, we can go back here, and we'll give this another go here. It's there, so it shouldn't be complaining. Maybe what we'll do is just start from the start here again. Yeah, there you go. The Azure portal is like that a lot, where you'll have something set up and it has the old state of it. And so you just have to trust yourself that you know what you're doing, and you have to go back. But if you don't have a lot of confidence, a lot of times you'll get stuck and you'll think, okay, I don't have it right. But always just try again and hit refresh because the Azure portal is very inconsistent. So we're just going to have to wait for this to create. This does take a little while to create, so I'll see you back in a moment. So after waiting 5 minutes, our Bastion is now created. And so what we can do is, without even using a PuTTY client or having to use Linux directly, we can just connect via the Bastion. So here we'll see we have some options here. So we want to do SSH private key from local file. Okay. And what we can do is go ahead and select our Azure key. And then I'll just scroll down here and hit connect. Oh, and I think we made the username Azure. And we'll go ahead and connect now. And it's complaining about a pop-up here, so we'll go up here and say always allow. And we'll try that again. And then we'll say allow again. And so now that we're into our server here, let's go ahead and try to install Apache and see if we can get at least the default page running. So this is using Ubuntu. If my memory serves me correctly, it should be app get install Apache 2. And we'll just hit Y for continue. And we'll just wait for this to install. Doesn't take too darn long. And after a short little wait there, it finally did install. Also, if you notice this little icon here, we have a little clipboard here. I don't seem to ever use that there, so that's fine. Now, when you install Apache, we might have to go ahead and start it up. So let's just take a look to see if it actually is in the running directory here. So we'll go to cd var www. And so that's where the default directory is, right? But we can just check to see if it's running by doing a psaux. I think it's httpd, or we can say Apache here. And so it looks like it's already running, so that's pretty great for us. And since it's running on port 80 and we've opened up port 80, we should probably be able to access that here. So let's go back to our actual virtual machine. So we'll go to virtual machines. And we have that virtual machine running. I'm just going to click into it because I just want to find out its public IP address. So here it is there. And if we're lucky, this will just work. Just a copy to clipboard button right there. And look at that, we have the default page. Isn't that cool? So that's all there really is to it. And I could even update this page. You don't have to do it, but I'm just going to update it for fun. Actually, I probably have to restart the server, so maybe I won't do that. But yeah, so we connected through the Bastion, so that was pretty darn easy. We probably could have also used the Cloud Shell to connect, but maybe we could give that a go as well. Since we're all done here, let's go ahead and do some cleanup. The first thing I want to do is, the easiest way is actually to go to all resources here on the left-hand side. And this really gives you an idea of everything that's running in your account. So I actually have other stuff in here that's not relevant. But the idea is that all of our stuff is running within a resource group. And so I'm just taking a look there. I'm not seeing, this is all resources here. Let's see if we see resource group here. Yeah, they're all there right there. So I can go ahead and click that. And so everything more or less should be self-contained within here. See all that stuff? You can even see the VNet is part of it as well. And so if I go ahead and delete this resource group, it should delete all this stuff. So I'm just going to type Azure to confirm. And we'll go ahead and delete. And that should do a good job of cleaning up all those files. I'm not sure if it'll delete the IP. It should right there. But if it doesn't, what I recommend is after everything is deleted, just go back here to all resources and just double check to make sure they all vanish. Because when this is done, they're all going to start to vanish from this list. And if there's anything remaining, you'll know because it's still here, right? So just be careful about that. That's all I want you to know. And so that's the Linux part. And so let's go ahead and actually now set up a Windows server.